All right, in this lesson, we're going to be estimating cube roots. So let's talk real quick about what a cube root is. It deals with the same standard as in the last lesson, but we're going to be estimating, and I'll also show you how to do this in your Texas Instrument calculator as well. But we talked before about square roots. Like the square root of 4 is what times what equals 4. So the square root of 4 is 2 because 2 times 2 equals 4. What about the square root of, what about the cube root of 8? So a couple things to note. Number one, we write this tiny little 3 up here to represent the fact that it's a cube root and not a square root. Square roots are used so much that we don't need to write the 2 where other roots we do. So you could have a 3, a cube root, a fourth root, a fifth root. That tells you how many times you multiply something by itself to get the answer. So what do you multiply by itself 3 times to get 8? Well, I'll tell you. It's 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So the cube root of 2 is 8. And the reason it's, if I can draw this well enough. So in previous video with square roots, we talked about a square, perfect square, made of 2, 2, and 2. Well, a cube would have squares, not squares, but little bitty cubes. Think of it like a Rubik's Cube, made up of really small cubes. And that's a terrible drawing, and I apologize for the drawing, but if you can visualize it, there's 1, 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, so 5 and 6, 7 and 8. So it takes 8 little cubes to make one big cube that's 2 by 2 by 2. So that's why it's called cubed. So let's look at a couple of examples. So they're going to ask you several different ways. They're going to give you some multiple choices. They're going to give you some what integer is it, specifically closest to, things like that. So let's work through several examples. This one says, which two integers is the cube root of 110 between? So we're looking for what times itself 3 times is close to 110. So I'm going to just go in order. We may or may not have to do them all, but we'll see. So for this one, 14 times 14 times 14. Now I can see right away that that's going to be bigger than 110, but let's do the math. So 14 times 14 times 14. I'm going to use my handy dandy calculator so that I don't make a mistake on the video. So 14 times 14 times 14 is 2,744. And then 15 times 15 times 15 is 3,375. So what this means is the cube root of 3,375, so the cube root is equal to 15. Going this way, 15 cubed is equal to 3,375, and vice versa for this one. So is 110 between 2,744 and 3,375? Of course not. So those numbers are way too big. So I'm going to use a little bit of inference here, and I'm going to assume that these numbers are too big as well. And we'll check them all just to make sure, but I'm trying to get you to think logically here. So let's try the smallest set of numbers and see what happens. So 4 times 4 times 4, so 4 cubed is, 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 is 64. In other words, the cube root of 64 is 4. And then 5 times 5 is 25 times 5 is 125. So the cube root of 125 is 5. Does cube root of 110 fall between those two? Yes, it does. So somewhere between 4 and 5, maybe 4.5, maybe 4.2. It's going to be an irrational number. It's never going to end and it's never going to repeat, but it's not a whole number, so it falls somewhere between 4 and 5. Now we already feel like 10 and 11 are too big, but let's check 6 and 7 just to make sure. So 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. So the cube root of 216, and we can already see it's bigger than 110. So this one's going to be a bust, but let's just do 7 for fun. 7 times 7 times 7 is 343. So that one is definitely out. And if 6 and 7 are too big, then 10 and 11 are definitely too big. So our answer is 4 and 5. All right, so the next kind of problem you're going to get is it's going to say, complete the following statement. Use the integers that are closest to the number in the middle. So what we are looking for is what three numbers multiply together to be 109, or to be the closest to 109. So we're going to have something here and we're going to have something here so that we can estimate this. This is going to be between these two. So there's a couple ways we can do this. 109 is not a very large number when it comes to multiplying three things together, as you'll see in just a second. So we're going to do it this way. So let's just start with 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Start with and go to 3. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. 4 cubed is 64. See how the numbers are getting bigger very, very quickly? 5 cubed is 125. 6 cubed is 216. So numbers are getting big very quick. We've already got, just in our little table here, we've already got what we need. So 109 is somewhere between 64 and 25, or 125. So it's somewhere between there. So we know that it's somewhere between 4 and 5. And keep in mind, we're not saying that 109 is between 4 and 5. We're saying that the cube root of 109 is between 4 and 5. And as a matter of fact, the cube root of 109 is exactly 4.7768566181 repeating, or I'm sorry, not repeating, never ending, never repeating. So I'm going to round this off to 3 decimal places. Now notice, written like that, it looks like those repeat, but they do not. There's no bar or anything. It doesn't repeat. I just rounded it off. So it is somewhere between 4 and 5. Now, I'm sure you're saying, you got to use a calculator. Why can't we? Well, guess what? You can. Not on this one, though. It's on the next one. Sorry. So which is closer to 61? So we can go back and look at our table. And I just make the table again, just because I like math. So 2 cubed is 8. 3 cubed is 27. 4 cubed is 64. And this falls right in between there. Now, it's way closer to 64 than it is 27. So I'm going to say that the integer that is closest is 4. And we'll come back to this one in just a second and check it with the calculator. But I want you to understand that if you do it by the table, see how much closer? It's only it's only 3 away from 64. So it's got to be really close to 4. And we'll come back in a second and check. But to use your calculator, if you have a TI-83 or 84 or 84 Plus or any of the TI-83, 84 series, if you press the math button, let me get my ink out. If you press the math button, you'll get this menu that you see right here. Okay? And you have different options. Feel free to play with these in your own, whenever you can, but the one that we're looking for is number 4. You can arrow down. You can hit the arrow key and arrow down to number 4 and then hit enter. Or you can just press number 4 and it'll pick the 4th item in the menu and hit enter. And then you just type in the rest of the equation. So it'll give you 3 and the radical symbol. So it'll give you the cube root. And then you're going to type in whatever you need to type in and then press enter and you'll get your answer. Now, read the question carefully. It says, which integer is closest to that cube root? So in other words, you're going to have to round off. So is 8.86 closer to 8? Or is it closer to 9? So it's in the middle somewhere. If you notice right here, it's more than halfway. So halfway would be 0.5, so it's more than halfway. So it is definitely closer to 9. Okay, so those steps again. Press Math. You'll get this menu. There are quite a few menus, but this is the one we need for this one. We'll try to learn them as we go. I don't think it's beneficial to try to learn everything your calculator can do. I think it works better if you learn as you go and practice. After you learn it, keep practicing it. So again, press Math, go down to number 4, which is a cube root symbol with parentheses already done for you, and then just type in your number. So having done that, let's go back and check this one. So I'm going to do Math. I'm going to go down to number 4, and I'm going to put in 61, and believe it or not, I got 3.936497, and it keeps going. It doesn't repeat. It never ends. So it's an irrational number, but it's very close to 4. Like I said, it's closer to 64, so it's going to be close to 4. All right, see you in the next lesson.